People talk about first impressions as if they're made in the very first few seconds. You walk into a room, people look at you, boom, decision made. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, he describes this as rapid cognition. The problem is, he's only half right. You see, I don't believe that that's how first impressions actually work. And understanding how they do work is a very important skill that we need to master in order to ensure that we are a threat in this rapidly changing world going forward. So that's what I want to explore today. When I first started Missing Link, I was in my early 20s and I would be walking into very senior meetings at big banks wearing shorts and t-shirt, executive committees, leadership conferences, CEO level conversations. Now, I wasn't doing it to be provocative, that was just how I dressed.
I love those clothes!
What I noticed very quickly is that clothing doesn't decide whether people trust you, it decides how quickly they categorize you. You see, when you walk into a bank dressed like a banker, people know exactly where to place you. You're familiar, you're safe, you're also predictable. When you walk in looking completely different though, something else happens. There's a pause. You see, they don't know where to put you yet. They don't know which box you belong in. And in that pause, judgment gets suspended. That pause is everything. I actually learned this the hard way. You see, when I tried to fit in and dress like everybody else, especially when I was young, it didn't help. It made me look like a junior. 22-year-old me walking in wearing a suit with a bank CEO was treated like an intern, right? Like somebody playing a role in a system that already understood hierarchy. Looking different didn't make people trust me. It made them listen long enough for me to earn that trust. And that's where most people misunderstand first impressions. You see, like Gladwell, we talk about them as if they're fixed. As if the moment somebody sees you is the moment they decide who you are. However, what people actually remember is not how you arrive, it's where you land relative to that.
Could you explain that to us, please?
So think about two people walking into the same meeting. And this exact thing happened to me with a senior executive at a large corporation. Right, so one of them looks exactly right, sounds right, ticks all the boxes. Expectations started at 6 out of 10. They do a good job and they manage to even leave it an 8 out of 10. Well done. Another person walks in and gets quietly written off. They were wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Expectations started at 2. That was this guy. And the client even asked me how I could arrive at a meeting with her wearing shorts. I may have mentioned that it was summer in Africa. I don't know.
How dare you? How dare...
But then I managed to do a relatively solid job. I understood the brief, I added value, and I promptly left around a 7. So a 2 to a 7. So who gets remembered and who won the work? I can tell you who it isn't. It isn't the person who met expectations, but it's the person who hacked them, this guy. You see, it's the difference that matters. I always draw this as a bit of a sailboat graph, right? Expectation is the baseline and experience is the climb. The person who moves furthest is the one who sticks. And I'll tell you why. It's because memory lives in the gap. Now, this idea has been with me for a long time. In fact, in 2005, I had the opportunity to speak on the main stage at TED, just 3 minutes, no safety net, and I took this idea to the extreme. I walked onto the TED stage deliberately looking like I was trying to make a bad first impression. And then I spoke about the sailboat above. There was tech failures, it was terrible. Oh.
It's hard to watch.
Now, when I watched the footage, it's so uncomfortable. I probably pushed it too far, but the core insight was correct. First impressions lie. What matters is the delta between what people expect and what they experience once you're talking. Now, here's what that most people miss. If you do choose to be brave enough to stand out, you're operating without a safety net. You see, inside my company, we had a rule. If you walk into a room looking different, you don't get forgiven. People who look like they belong, well, they get second chances. People who look like outsiders don't. So we had to be obsessive. We had to over-deliver every time. We had to do more than ask. We had to fix things at the last minute. We had to throw in work clients didn't pay for. We had to make them look good. We had to know our space better than anyone else in the room. Heck, we had to promise PM and deliver AM. And I'll tell you why. Because standing on the outside only works if you're undeniable on the inside.
Damn right we are.
Now, this is where all of this comes together. You see, this video has very little to do with actually how you dress. It has a lot to do with how people perceive you. In this case, clothing is just a case study. Memorability is the message. Now, there's a word for the pattern that I'm trying to promote that makes people memorable. And that word is juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is being expected, but unexpected. Familiar, but different. I always describe it this way. You want to be like this, but that. Accountant, but pianist. Casual, but obsessively professional. Creative, but commercially sharp. The like this gets you trusted. The but that makes you interesting.
Oh, I get it now.
Now here's the deal. Most people know they're like this. It's safe, it's obvious. But the people who get remembered, the people who keep getting chosen, the people who survive change, they're the ones who figure out their but that. It's the actuary that's a great communicator. The marketer that geeks out on data. The engineer that is passionate about design. These are the people that win. And this is what I mean when I talk about hacking their expectation engine. Every person, every customer, every organization, they have a built-in expectation engine and it's running in the background and it's constantly predicting what's about to happen next. Now, when you give people exactly what they expect, well, you've done your job. When you break that expectation in a positive way, you become memorable. That's customer experience, that's relevance, and that's how teams stand out without being reckless. This is the core of my keynote, Hacking the Expectation Engine, also called Relentlessly Relevant Service. It's about teaching teams how to break expectations deliberately, consistently, and for good. Not through gimmicks, but through behavior, mindset, and execution. So here's a question I want to leave you with. What are you like this, but also that? Because you see, if you can describe yourself with one word, you're forgettable. But if you can describe yourself with two unexpected ones, you're memorable. And in the world we're walking into, memorable wins. I always say that we spend the first 20 years of our life trying to fit in and the next 40 trying to stand out. The problem is most people never make that switch. Make sure that you're one of the few that do. And in order to do that, well, you may want to watch this next video here on why you need to be the smartest person in the room.